You ever take one of those personality tests that tells you you're an INFJ visionary who's deeply empathetic, but also a natural leader? And you're like, yeah, that sounds about right. Then your friend takes the same test and gets the exact same result. Here's the thing. Most personality tests aren't measuring your personality. They're measuring what you want to believe about yourself, and there's a massive difference between those two things. The Myers-Briggs test you probably took? It's basically astrology with better marketing. But here's what's actually wild. There are personality tests that work, tests that can predict your behavior, your relationships, even your career success with scary accuracy. The difference is they don't make you feel good about yourself. They tell you the truth. I learned this the hard way when I spent 3 years thinking I was an ENTP, because some online quiz told me so. I made career decisions based on that. I avoided certain types of work because that's not what ENTPs do. Then I took an actual scientifically validated assessment and discovered I'd been operating under completely false assumptions about myself. The real data was uncomfortable as hell, but it was actually useful. This is literally why I built thecouncil.chat. Because most people have no idea what their actual personality patterns are. They think they're self-aware, but they're just repeating what some online quiz told them. The council starts with real personality assessments, not the fun ones, the ones that actually work. 2 minutes of questions, no credit card needed. Then you get 9 AI advisors who know your actual psychological profile. They remember every conversation. They call out your blind spots. And they disagree with each other, so you get different perspectives on the same issue. It's not therapy. It's not coaching. It's like having a table of really smart friends who've studied your psychology and aren't afraid to tell you when you're bullshitting yourself. One of them always plays devil's advocate. Another one focuses on practical solutions, and they all know exactly how your personality type tends to sabotage itself. Like if you're low in conscientiousness, they won't just tell you to be more organized. They'll give you specific systems that work for people with your exact psychological profile. If you're high in neuroticism, they won't tell you to just relax. They'll teach you anxiety management techniques that actually match how your brain works. Thecouncil.chat, link in the description. But first, let me show you exactly why most personality tests are worse than useless. Here's what's actually happening when you take a personality test. There are 2 massive problems, and both of them make the results completely worthless. Problem 1 is called the Forer effect, named after psychologist Bertram Forer. In 1948, he gave his students a personality test, then gave them all the exact same personality description. Stuff like, you have a great need for other people to like and admire you, and you tend to be critical of yourself. 86% of students said it was accurate. Sound familiar? That's because these statements are so vague they apply to everyone. It's the same trick fortune tellers use. Let me give you some real examples from popular personality tests. You're usually warm and friendly, but can be reserved when the situation calls for it. Who the hell doesn't fit that description? You have a strong sense of justice, but sometimes doubt your decisions. Again, that's literally everyone. You prefer harmony, but aren't afraid to stand up for your beliefs when necessary. These aren't personality insights. They're horoscopes with better vocabulary. Problem 2 is social desirability bias. When you answer questions about yourself, you don't answer honestly. You answer how you want to be seen. The question isn't, are you organized? The real question is, do you want to be seen as organized? And of course you do. Nobody wants to admit they're disorganized, so everyone scores high on conscientiousness. I've seen guys take the same test 3 times and get 3 different results, depending on their mood and what they thought the right answer was. Myers-Briggs is the worst offender here. There's a reason it's been completely abandoned by serious psychologists, but is still everywhere in corporate training. It makes people feel special and unique. Even though there's zero evidence, it predicts anything meaningful about behavior or performance. But here's a story that shows you how dangerous this shit can get. I know a guy who spent 2 years avoiding management roles because Myers-Briggs told him he was an introvert, and introverts aren't natural leaders. Meanwhile, he was already successfully leading projects, mentoring junior developers, and people came to him for advice constantly. But some tests told him he wasn't leadership material, so he believed it. He turned down 2 promotions before finally realizing the test was bullshit. Think about how insane that is. He ignored actual evidence of his leadership ability because a pseudoscientific test gave him a label. Or here's another one. A woman I worked with thought she was not a detail person because some assessment told her she was a big-picture thinker. So she never learned proper project management skills. She just accepted that she'd always be disorganized and relied on other people to handle the details. For years, until she finally realized that not being detail-oriented isn't a personality trait. It's a skill deficit. She learned project management, got organized, and her career took off, but she wasted years believing she was fundamentally incapable of something that was just a learnable skill. This is what I mean when I say personality tests can be actively harmful. They don't just fail to help you, they convince you that your current limitations are permanent features of who you are. But here's why this matters more than just personality tests are dumb. When you base your self-concept on bad data, you make terrible decisions. You think you're an introvert because some test told you so you avoid networking events that could advance your career. You think you're not a numbers person, so you don't learn basic financial literacy. You think you're naturally disorganized, so you don't build systems that could actually help you. It's a form of learned helplessness, but with a personality test giving it scientific credibility. There's research from Stanford showing that people who believe their personality is fixed are less likely to develop new skills or change problematic behaviors. They think, this is just who I am, instead of this is a pattern I can work on. Carol Dweck's work on fixed versus growth mindset shows this perfectly. People with fixed mindsets about their abilities perform worse over time because they don't put in effort to improve. They think talent is static. And personality tests reinforce this by giving you a label and telling you this is who you are. The scary part? Bad personality tests don't just fail to help you understand yourself. They actively prevent growth by giving you a false sense of self-knowledge. You stop questioning your patterns because you think you already know what they are, and that's exactly backwards from how real self-awareness works. Real self-awareness is uncomfortable. It means admitting you don't know yourself as well as you think. It means being willing to discover things about yourself that you don't like. Most personality tests let you skip that discomfort by telling you exactly what you want to hear. So what actually works? The Big Five personality model, also called the five-factor model. It's the only personality framework that consistently holds up to scientific scrutiny. Instead of putting you in neat little boxes, it measures you on 5 dimensions. Openness to experience, how much you seek out new ideas and experiences. This predicts creativity, political liberalism, and willingness to try new foods. Seriously, they can predict your restaurant choices from this score. Conscientiousness, how organized and disciplined you are. This is the strongest predictor of job performance across almost every field. It also predicts longevity, because conscientious people take better care of their health. Extroversion, how much energy you get from social interaction. But here's what's important. It's not about being shy or outgoing, it's about where you get your energy. Some introverts are great public speakers. Some extroverts hate small talk. Agreeableness, how much you prioritize getting along with others versus getting what you want. High agreeableness predicts helping behavior and relationship satisfaction. Low agreeableness predicts salary negotiation success and entrepreneurship. And neuroticism, how much you experience negative emotions like anxiety and anger. High neuroticism isn't just being moody, it's a consistent pattern of emotional instability that affects decision-making, relationships, and career success. Here's what makes it different from the bullshit tests. First, it measures degrees, not types. You're not an introvert or an extrovert. You might be a 3 out of 10 on extroversion. This matters because most people are in the middle ranges on most traits. Second, the questions are behavioral, not aspirational. Instead of "Are you organized?" it asks, "How often do you leave your room messy?" Or "Do you usually return borrowed items promptly?" Third, it predicts real outcomes. High conscientiousness predicts job performance, academic success, and longevity. Low agreeableness predicts higher salaries, but more relationship conflicts. High neuroticism predicts anxiety disorders and relationship problems. It's not pretty, but it's accurate. And accuracy is what matters if you actually want to understand yourself. Let me give you some concrete examples of how this plays out. Say you score low on conscientiousness. Myers-Briggs might tell you you're a perceiver who thrives on spontaneity. Sounds fun, right? Big Five tells you you're likely to struggle with deadlines, have trouble maintaining routines, and need external structure to be productive. Not as fun, but actually useful. Because now you know to build systems. You can set up automatic bill payments, use calendar reminders, and create accountability partnerships. Or say you score high on neuroticism. Pop psychology tests might tell you you're sensitive or emotionally intelligent. Big Five tells you you're prone to anxiety and emotional instability under stress. Again, not flattering, but useful, because now you know to develop specific coping strategies. You can learn meditation, practice cognitive reframing, and maybe avoid high-stress career paths. Here's a personal example. I used to score moderate on agreeableness, which I thought was good, balanced, diplomatic, gets along with everyone. Then I realized this was actually hurting me in negotiations and difficult conversations. I was too concerned with maintaining harmony to advocate for myself effectively. So I deliberately practiced being more direct and assertive in low-stakes situations. Over time, my agreeableness score actually shifted lower, and my income went up. That's the difference between using personality data as destiny versus using it as information to make better choices. Here's what to actually do about this. First, if you've based major life decisions on Myers-Briggs or any other pop psychology test, ignore those results completely. Seriously, delete them from your mental model of yourself. Second, take a validated Big Five assessment. The International Personality Item Pool has free versions that are scientifically sound. Don't use the first Google result, use IPIP Neo or similar research-grade assessments. Third, pay attention to the scores you don't like. If you score low on conscientiousness and it pisses you off, that's useful information. That anger means you value being organized but haven't developed the skills yet. The discomfort is where the growth happens. Fourth, use your results to identify specific behaviors to change, not to justify existing patterns. If you're high in neuroticism, don't think I'm just an anxious person. Think I have a tendency toward anxiety that I can manage with specific strategies. If you're low in openness, don't think I'm just not creative. Think I tend to stick with familiar approaches, so I need to deliberately seek out new perspectives. Fifth, get feedback from people who know you well. Ask them to rate you on the Big Five dimensions before you take the test. Compare their ratings to your self-assessment. The differences will show you your blind spots. Sixth, retake the test every year or two. Real personality can change, especially if you're actively working on specific traits. Research shows that conscientiousness typically increases with age. Neuroticism often decreases. Openness can increase if you deliberately expose yourself to new experiences. The goal isn't to discover some fixed essence of who you are. It's to get accurate data on your current patterns so you can decide which ones to keep and which ones to change. Seventh, focus on one trait at a time. Don't try to overhaul your entire personality. Pick the trait that's causing you the most problems and work on specific behaviors related to that trait for 3 to 6 months. Here are some advanced strategies that most people never learn. First, understand that personality traits interact with situations. You might be introverted in large groups, but extroverted in one-on-one conversations. The key is identifying which situations bring out your best and worst tendencies, then designing your life accordingly. Second, learn to compensate for your weak areas without trying to change your core personality. If you're low in conscientiousness, don't try to become a naturally organized person. Instead, build external systems that make organization automatic. Use technology, create checklists, and set up environmental cues. Third, leverage your strengths strategically. If you're high in openness, seek out roles that require creativity and innovation. If you're high in conscientiousness, take on projects that require attention to detail and follow through. Don't try to be well-rounded. Try to be excellent in your strength areas. Fourth, understand how your personality affects other people. If you're low in agreeableness, you might come across as abrasive even when you're trying to be helpful. Learn to soften your communication style in situations where relationship harmony matters. If you're high in neuroticism, your anxiety might make other people anxious. Learn to manage your emotional state before important conversations. Fifth, use personality data to choose better environments. If you're introverted, don't force yourself into heavily social careers. But don't avoid leadership roles either. Find ways to lead that play to your strengths, maybe through one-on-one mentoring or small team management rather than large group presentations. Look, most guys walking around think they know themselves pretty well. They've got their little personality type memorized from some tests they took 5 years ago. INFJ, ENTP, whatever. But self-knowledge isn't a destination, it's a practice. And it starts with getting honest data about how you actually behave, not how you wish you behaved. The difference between those two things is the difference between real growth and comfortable self-deception. The Counsel at the Council chat uses actual personality data to give you feedback that most people will never get. Because most people in your life are too polite to tell you the truth about your patterns. Your friends won't tell you that your low conscientiousness is sabotaging your career. Your family won't tell you that your high neuroticism is exhausting to be around. Your coworkers won't tell you that your low agreeableness makes